thing that happened on Friday during the show. Tua.
Yeah.
And Tua has been in this report.
I kind of heard.
It was
right.
I think it was strategically released on Saturday morning, or Friday morning, excuse me. Got my days messed up. The day after Jared Goff signs his contract, the last business day before the OTAs start, somebody from Tua's camp wanted it to be known that Tua has not been there for the majority of the offseason. I think there was kind of a tenuous truce between the team and Tua. Let's just keep this all quiet. We understand you're not going to want to be here until you get your contract. We don't need to have this being a big, ugly public thing. Well, it's in the process of becoming a big, ugly public thing, especially if he's not there today, and that's the only leverage he has. Good luck getting your team ready. Good luck getting the offense ready, Mike McDaniel, if the starting quarterback isn't there for your pre-training camp practices.
Yeah, no, it stinks. Again, it's a Dolphins team that we've talked about. We know is super talented, right? They got everything going in the right direction, but lost a lot of players where you do look at it and go, hey, this is an offseason where there's going to be some gelling, some getting guys on the same page. Lost some big players on the offense and defensive side of the ball. You look at their free agency transactions. You look at all the guys they signed. I mean, they've got a lot of new moving parts and pieces there in Miami. They're kind of flipping this over on the run a little bit. And as we talked about last week, the Tua contract situation has a chance to be, to me, one of the most polarizing big news topics here as we go into training camp, if not the number one thing, right? Because of all the things we know. One, hey, he's a good player. We get that. He led the league in passing. Is he that good? Is he the superstar good? Is he top 5 good? Of course I don't think that. Then there's the injury history, right? There's that aspect of it as well. And, of course, he's not a real big guy. And he's only had this last year of being healthy. So you'd like to see another year. And, of course, you get back into, just the nuts and bolts of the situation of paying a guy. As I sit here and Johnny football guy, and, I'm old school, grew up in, Phil Simms, Bill Parcells, bigger quarterback, sit in the pocket, throw the ball down the field. I'd have a hard time giving Tua big money. I would. I'd want to see another year for sure. I know that. I wouldn't want to throw out some $45 million a year. We're going to pay him $120, $140 guaranteed just because 1 year we made it through healthy. That to me would be a tough sell if I was working in the front office in Miami.
Yeah, the problem is, though, the Lions give Goff $212 over 4 years as an extension, $148 million practical guarantee at signing, $73 million signing bonus, the biggest ever. How does that not embolden Tua? How does that not make Tua want more? Whatever he wanted last week, he wants more now, and he should.
Well, he want more. But I will say this. He ain't Jared Goff, right? We can say what we want about Jared Goff. He is not Jared Goff. Jared Goff is better than Tua. Jared Goff stands in there and makes big throws. The things we talk about with Tua in every big game, as soon as it drops under 57 degrees, we go, he can't make the throw. He can't make the big play. He can't stand in there and have people around him and just flick a 20-yard out route when it's 28 degrees out and there's a little wind there. Jared Goff can do it. It might not be a pretty spiral. It might not look cool because he's long and gangly, but damn, he'll stand in there and fire away. And look what he's doing there in Detroit. He doesn't have as much talent around him as Tua does. Jared Goff is in a different class than Tua right now. Tua's working to get there. He's going on an upward trajectory. I'm not trying to hate on him. I'm just trying to be honest about what I see in the situation overall. That would be my 2 cents, Michael.
The one big similarity.
Yeah.
You had the fans in Detroit who have taken to Jared Goff, chanting his name at the draft, chanting his name anywhere and everywhere. And because of that, there had to be an acknowledgement. This is still a business. We want to keep these people happy. We jacked up the season ticket prices. We got to give them what they want. And the other wrinkle, the Brad Holmes GM tied into Jared Goff. This is part of his legacy. This is part of his identity as the GM. That makes it easier for him to push forward as well. Those same 2 items apply to Tua. The fans love him. Some of them. It is polarizing.
It is.
But I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But Chris Greer, we've talked about that. It's a point you've made. Chris Greer is tied to Tua. The fan thing is fascinating to me because there are some very loud pro-Tua voices, but this is, and I'm not going to tell you the name, this is a friend of PFT, not anyone with any team, but somebody who has been a lifelong Dolphins fan, ardent, zealous, all in for the Dolphins. He texted me after this stuff came up last week. I'm so over Tua. He's good, but he's not elite. Seems like a nice kid, but his fans are out of control. He's nowhere near as good as they think. He's the ultimate system guy who can't extend plays, and he's so dependent on others around him, more so than any of the top guys. They should play out the fifth-year option and then give him a take it or leave it offer. That is a lifelong Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of other Dolphins fans that feel that way.
There is.
But they are not nearly as loud as Tuanon.
Yeah.
Which makes the name ironic because there's nothing anonymous about Tuanon. They are very loud and they are very vocal, and they want Tua to be given all the money.
Yeah, no doubt. He has a strong backing, right? From his days of being a top recruit, and then of course going to Alabama. And hey, he's got a lovable personality. I understand that and all of that. You know, he's the guy that kind of looks like, he looks like, your ordinary Joe, right? He's not like, oh, wow, look at this Adonis. Look at, Justin Herbert or Josh Allen or something like that. So I think there's a little bit of a commonplace there with the everyday sports guy to go, hey, look at this guy. He's overcoming these obstacles. He just looks like some guy you'd see you're walking around the street, right? He's got that, and he does have a lovable personality that I think kids gravitate towards too, like we've talked about with Mahomes or Steph Curry, where they just see him smile and they look at him and they go, oh, he looks nice and I'm going to root for him. I think he's got all those things going. But yeah, the football stuff, and where I'd get into like the difference between Jared Goff and Tua is what is that moment? What is that moment, those big plays, that game that Tua's had yet to make that fan base even want to back him to that degree? As we've talked so many times, when the game gets tough or game gets ugly, I mean, that's when we don't really see Tua. That's not part of it. Tua's, hey, when the game's awesome and it's high scoring and everybody's open and the run game's working, yeah, sure, he looks good. But damn, a lot of quarterbacks are going to look good there in Miami in that offense when things are like that. And yeah, that's where they're going to have to struggle to find the right price here. And for Tua, I'll say this too, Mike. If I'm him, I wouldn't be missing practice right now. I wouldn't. I would be there. You haven't solidified yourself as like gold standard NFL guy. You need to be there. You got more guys there. And you know what you can do? Be there, be a leader, and you're going to put more pressure on them when you go to the press conference after and you go, yeah, I want a new contract. I want to do that. I think this is one where I look at him. It's different than Stafford, who we're going to talk about in a minute, where I go, he's cutting off his nose to spite his face here, and I don't think he should do that. I wouldn't take this approach if I was Tua or advising Tua in his camp.
Well, and I think if Tua stays away from OTAs, that's the kind of thing that may cause some of the fans who are in the middle, if there are any, to break the other way
you're right,
and say,
Mike.
Hey, man, you still have to be there.
Right.
You still have to be there. And he's always given off a vibe of deferential to a fault. He's talked about that.
He has.
When he was interviewed last year, remember the Michael Smith interview, he never mentioned Brian Flores, but it was clear that Flores wanted him to be a way that he didn't want to be, but he did what Flores said because you always defer to your coach, respect your elders. There's value in that, but you have to know where that ends, and Tua has learned there's a moment where it ends, and this development is a sign that there is a bridge he won't cross, and he won't show up for the non-OTA offseason work, the majority of it. If he doesn't show up today, that changes everything. And at a certain point, I think that, there was an acceptance that Kirk Cousins had when he was in Washington where they tagged him the first time.
Yeah.
You're going to stay away from offseason and training camp and show up just before the start of the regular season and sign it and make your full money? Hell no. I'm going to be there. I'm the starter. This is my job. I'm going to be all in because it's going to lay the foundation for next year. I'm not going to have a second tag or an opportunity to go make big money on the market if I'm not all in and getting the most out of my job. So he did it the first year of the tag when he was making 20, the second year when he was making 24, and then he goes to the open market and he makes 28, which was the most at the time. It's amazing to think that it's doubled in 6 years to 55, almost doubled. It's going to be past 55, 56, 60 soon enough. But he realized there's a certain point where you just got to play the cards you're dealt. And it's unfair that Tua's only making 23-1. You know, what they need to do is come up with some sort of a Band-Aid, almost like a Jordan Love deal, to cover this year and next year. To pay him more.
Yeah, right.
But not everything.
That's
and give him 2 years to earn market value. If he's trying to get market value now, that seems to me the thing they should try to do.
I like that remedy most, right? I do. Now, of course, we know Tua and his camp aren't going to like that, but that to me would be more sensible if I was running the Miami Dolphins or any organization, and I look at Tua and evaluate the situation as a whole. Yeah, I'd want to do something along those lines. First off, they were nice to him and gave him the fifth-year option when they didn't really have to, and it was certainly questionable whether they should. They did him a solid there and gave him a little peace of mind there. So, they've certainly tried to do good by him, and we know they want him to succeed for all the reasons you explained and I've been talking about for the last few weeks. Chris Grier is the first flag of, hey, I'm a GM, this is my big move, and it was Tua. He wants to make that work. So, yeah, but again, throwing out $150 million guaranteed or whatever, I don't think that's the right thing. And I'm with you. I think your little talk or formula there would be the right approach, or what I would try to do.
But he's the defending passing yardage leader, whatever that means, if that means anything. But this is the time. Strike while the iron's hot. We don't know what's going to happen this year. He might miss 10 games this year. Who knows? He somehow, in a year where 66 different quarterbacks started games in the NFL, Tua went wire to wire, which is amazing, and it's impressive. Is that enough to get the Dolphins to say, we're giving you Jared Goff money, or close to it, or more than it? That's the challenge. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.